Hello, so I want to talk a little bit about being a convicted felon. So first of all, my felony came in 1996. So I was convicted of a felony for less than 1/10 of a gram of methamphetamine. So today, that case probably wouldn't be a felony, maybe in a rural area or a smaller jurisdiction, but it's a felony nevertheless. So what happened was I was homeless at the time, and there was a person who had asked me if I could get them some stuff. And, so I could make a commission off of it. And of course I said yes, because that was my little hustle that I had at the time. And we were both caught. There was one bag. They charged him with a misdemeanor and they charged me with a felony. And so he ended up getting his case dismissed. So how it ended up being a felony is because they said I was selling it to him, which I was not. But the whole point that went into that, how I ended up actually getting the felony, was I was in jail at the time and I was very much addicted to heroin. And so they came to me and they said, we will let you get out today if you will plead guilty, or you can stay in here for, I think it was 45 more days or something like that, and your case will be dismissed. So, of course, I said I would rather get out today. I mean, they're literally like today, like you'll get out later today. And I didn't really think about what the long-running implications of having that felony would be. And I think that's, having a public defender and like being in custody and having to deal with the various things, the health implications of being a person addicted to heroin in custody, I very much wanted to get out. And not to say that my public defender didn't encourage me to stay in there, but just the thought of staying in there, I wasn't thinking anything about it. So not only did I agree to the felony, but I agreed to what's called a joint suspended sentence, which at the time, my joint suspended sentence was that if I violated that probation, I could be sentenced to 3, 4, or 5 years in state prison. And I didn't think anything about that. Like, I didn't really understand what the implications of that could potentially be. So over the course of the next 2 years, I ended up getting arrested many, many times on the probation violation, because the terms and conditions of my probation was things like I was not supposed to be in places where people were selling drugs. I was homeless. That's where I lived, where people are selling. Everywhere was somewhere where people were selling drugs, because that's where homeless people sleep. I was not supposed to be using drugs. I was never offered any type of drug treatment or anything like that. It was just put me in jail, and I went to jail. Ended up spending quite a bit of time in jail over those cases without any kind of new cases. So finally, in 1998, I got arrested where I actually did have some substances with me. And they said, okay, well, now we're going to send you to prison for 3.5 years, the median of the joint suspended sentence. And I was like, you're not going to offer me a chance to go to rehab or anything like that. I think it's, there was like drug court, but they said, oh no, you have a felony already. You can't get into drug court. So I was just like, well, I guess I'm screwed then. But it just so happened that the probation officer in my case was a person in recovery, which is a miracle, so to speak. And he advocated for me, and the district attorney in my case actually stood up and said it was a miscarriage of justice that they sent me to rehab rather than sending me to state prison. And I've never used since then. I've been sober now for 24 years. And not to say that me going to jail is what got me sober. It was that I had been trying to get sober and I didn't know how to. And so when they sent me to rehab, they only had to send me one time. So since then, for many, many years, I didn't have the ability to vote. You can't live in certain kinds of housing. You can't get certain kind of jobs. Now that it's been quite a while, a lot of people, don't necessarily look at that. But it's everything from not being, today for felons, it's everything from not being able to get an Airbnb, to not being able to get jobs, to not be able to live in certain kind of housing, to not being able to vote. But, you know, for the first few years, I had no civil rights. So you could search my place. You could search my, it's called, was a 1035 search and seizure. Like, because I had this felony, I had no rights. And so you could search me, you could search my place. And not that I was even doing anything, but I just had no type of rights. So now today, it's been, since I've gotten that original felony, it's been many, many years, but I still have a felony on my record, and I'm still a felon. And if anything ever happens, it still comes up. It doesn't go away. People have talked to me about expungement. I think expungement works for some people. You know, you have to go to court. You have to get all kinds of letters written for you, take days off work and stuff like that. That's not something that I've pursued because, I mean, at one point I did pursue it, but it was so much, you know, work to get all that done, I didn't end up following through with it. So that's just a little bit about my personal experience.